What is going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another episode of Swoop Week. In this episode, we'll be reviewing the Collingwood Geelong game. Let's get into it. So I've just returned home from the Collingwood Geelong game. It is 1:10 on Saturday morning. As you can hear, my voice is gone. I'm shot. It was just an intense, immense game that, oh man, it could have gone, obviously one of two ways. That's obvious enough. But, in that first quarter, Geelong kicked 6 goals. Jeremy Cameron kicks 3 goals in the first quarter. After Kane Cornes this week says that, he's in the gun, he needs to kick 6 or 7. He finishes the game with 7 goals for, which is absolutely insane. We'll talk a little bit about those umpiring decisions a little bit later. But it was just that first quarter, then Darcy Moore goes down, and then you think, oh my God. Then, every sort of negative thought starts pouring into your head. And yes, we showed a little bit towards the end of that first quarter, but when you're, 3 or 4 goals down, or 16 points down in that in that first quarter, you sort of go, oh, here we go again. No Darcy Moore, so there goes our big intercept, key defender. Obviously no Dacos, no Steele. And then Geelong kicks 6 goals, 2 in the first quarter, and you go, shit. Jeremy Cameron's on, Geelong are on. We weren't manning up. We weren't, we were playing. In the first 10 minutes of that quarter, I thought we were playing the best football that we've played in the last couple of weeks. And then we let Geelong back into the game. Geelong were getting right over the top for a counter-attack. Geelong players free in the goal square, and they were doing whatever they wanted, right? And then the second quarter happens, and we start seeing an injection of just spark and intensity from this Collingwood side. And Jack Ginnivan gets subbed into the game. There's a big roar when he comes on. And then, Collingwood start kicking goals, and we go down at halftime, only a point down. And then we put on a huge 6-goal third quarter, and then it's on, right? And yes, Geelong is still sort of coming back, but those 3 quarters, from the end of the first quarter to the end of the third quarter, we put on 67 points, right? Which is just incredible. Like, our pressure, our DNA was back. The Collingwood DNA that we've grown to love over these last 2 years was back, and it was back with a vengeance. And what better way than against the reigning premiers? And Geelong had everything to lose in this game. They needed to win to keep in touch with the 8. They were sitting 9th, I think. And we come out after that first quarter and just blitzed them. In that last quarter, they start kicking some goals, and I'm going, here we go. This is like round 3, 2022, where we were up by, I think, 36 points or something, and then Geelong came back and obviously won the game. Jeremy Cameron, Tom Hawkins again. But we just showed signs of life, because in the last 2 weeks, we hadn't been that team for the last 2 weeks, and we finally showed something. We managed 61 points scored from turnovers, so we were able to punish Geelong. We weren't able to do that these last 2 weeks. Last week we lost a centre clearance game 3-18. The centre clearances here, we lost them 11-15. So at least we sort of broke even. Darcy Cameron was doing everything, in the ruck. I think he had over 40 hitouts and stuff like that. It was one of those games where all the Collingwood players sort of came together after that first quarter, and after like we were questioned, Geelong questioned us, the media questioned us, and I thought that maybe it got into their heads a little bit in that first quarter, but then after that, it was just all guns blazing. And yes, Geelong came back in that last quarter, but I think we had done enough. Geelong really spent their tickets, and it was just doing Geelong twice in a year is just incredible. And exactly when we need it, we've got top 2 sewn up now. So that's like, are you kidding me? Like, we have a chance to win the minor premiership, which we haven't won since 2011. So even that, one more game. I honestly thought that this game, if we won it, we would be minor premiers, but we've got another game that we need to win. I think if Melbourne and Brisbane start losing, or whatever that may be, but we can only control what we can control. So we take on Brisbane next week, hopefully get the minor premiership then. But we did just so many things right after quarter time today. And it's so good to see. So obviously we go into this game without Nick Dacos, without Steele Sidebottom, and then Darcy Moore gets injured in that first quarter. So you're thinking, who's sort of going to step up now? What's going to happen? Nathan Murphy had I think he had 6 or 7 intercept marks. So he's taken those intercepts now that Darcy Moore wasn't there. Isaac Quaynor as well was back to his best. The movement of Jeremy Howe in the forward line, I'm pretty sure he played the forward line all game, and he just gave us something new. And he was playing that defensive forward role on Tom Stewart, kept Tom Stewart quiet. I wish we had done that last week against Sicily, but now we're learning, right? And that's what Craig McRae says. Nothing is perfect, and the cogs are always turning, and we're always learning. And we learned from last week's Sicily. We bring that to Tom Stewart's game today, and then we can use Howe as that defensive forward now. And that's, I think, me and David King talked about this 6-7 weeks ago in the mid-season. Howe up forward gives us something different. He's creative, he can take a good mark, he can kick a goal, and it's just, I love that. It's like a secret weapon now that if we need him down back, bang, he can swing down back. If we need him up forward, bang, he can swing up forward. But Billy Frampton down back really helps him. I wish we, were able to see a little bit more of how Frampton, Murphy and Moore could work in a team together. Unfortunately, we didn't get that opportunity, obviously. And who knows when Darcy Moore comes back with some hamstring tightness. But I love what Billy Frampton was able to do. The Leroy Brown, the big Lee Brown of 2010. We get to see that reincarnate version as Billy Frampton did everything that he could right. Jack Ginnivan, oh man, back in the team. And yes, like he wasn't going to kick 4, 5, 6 goals, right? Like he usually does. He was so unselfish today. 3 score assists and I think 6 score involvements or something. He was just setting them up, and in the post-match interview he came out and said, I enjoy setting him up. I get more joy setting him up. And he's not going to be that 45 goal player that we saw last year. Now he's added more strings to his bow. We said that in the VFL, if Craig McRae was to pick him, it would have just been on last year's form. Now he's picking him on this year's form, and he's getting more of a run into his tank, and he's getting more leg speed, and he's being more unselfish, and it's just really good to see. And the guys were getting around him, and that last week Craig McRae said that we were missing a spark, we were missing that sort of camaraderie where we would lay a tackle and go high five or do a smother and do this. I was noticing it a lot more today, that we were celebrating the little things. And that's what you got to do. And that's what we were so good at doing for the majority of this year. We're back doing the things that we know and love. A couple of guys that I want to shout out that's I kind of been riding hard on in these last couple of videos. Brody Mychek kicked a career high 5 goals, right? And he's gone goalless the last 4 or 5 games. So Brody Mychek's form has pretty much been the same as Collingwood's form. If Mychek's not having a good game, Collingwood's not having a good game. He put 5 goals on the board tonight. Incredible, immense. I love him so much. And I said that he was on thin ice. He's definitely not on thin ice anymore. He's got his mojo back, just like the Pies got their mojo back. Another guy that I said was a bit on thin ice as well was Patrick Lipinski. Lipinski had 8 tackles. 8 tackles, 25 disposals, 400 metres gained. So he played another good role. Lipinski, there was a bit of a knock on Lipinski in the last couple of weeks where he just wasn't giving us enough. And I think maybe, someone told him that because he gave us everything that he could today, which was, what we've just been wanting to see and what Patrick Lipinski was in the team for last season. That's what he was doing, and he was doing it again today. Tom Mitchell, 8 tackles. Scott Pendlebury, 7 tackles, and he's now the leading all-time tackler in the league, surpassing Joel Selwood. Joel Selwood had 1799 tackles, and Scott Pendlebury's got over 1,800 tackles now. So not only is he the all-time disposal getter, he's the all-time tackler as well, which is just like, just GOAT things. You know what I mean? Just absolute GOAT things. Like, I could shout out every single guy on this list because I think everyone pulled their weight. You know, Dan McStay, obviously Josh Dacos with 38 disposals, Bobby Hill as well, Bo McCreary. Like, I could go down and list every single player, but I think this was the Collingwood performance that we needed to have. And yes, when you look at the scores, we only ended up winning by 8. We were up by about 4 or 5 goals or something. But even though we won by 8, it felt like a 30-point win. It was just the win that we needed to have, and it came against the Cats, which was just even sweeter. But, you know, we couldn't go from those last 2 weeks to playing 100% good footy. There's still a lot to work on, and, you know, the Cats were able to claw themselves back in that last quarter, and we were a little bit sloppy in that first, and definitely some more screws that we can tighten. But it was definitely a performance that we've been crying out for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Or maybe not 3 or 4 weeks because of that Port Adelaide game. So definitely the last 2 weeks. But it kind of gives you hope that, you know, your 3 stars, Nick Dacos, Darcy Moore, Steele, none of them, and we're still producing this type of game and this DNA, and we're back to the sparky Collingwood. We're back to the DNA high pressure Collingwood. We out tackled them today as well. So it was fun. It was really, really fun, especially after the last 2 weeks of just shit house. You know, Carlton gave it to us, Hawthorn gave it to us, and we were able to give it to Geelong today. So it'll be remiss of me to finish this video without talking about those 2 umpiring decisions. Jeremy Cameron's mark, that was out of bounds on the full. Look, I can't really talk too much about that because I haven't seen too many angles. From where I was sitting, from what I could see, it did look like out of bounds on the full. Obviously, the players were up in the umpire's face telling him, but once it's given, you can't ungive it. But that goal that he kicked in the last quarter where Brad Close handballed it to him outside on the boundary, he got called play on while he was outside, and he kicked the goal, which was an amazing goal. Like, 7 goals for Jeremy Cameron is just incredible. But how you can call play on from outside the boundary, I honestly don't understand. Like, there's 8 umpires. There's 10 if you include the side umpires or whatever it is. But there's at least 8 umpires watching this, and no one's calling it. Everyone's saying, yeah, play on, it's all good. And he kicks a great goal. He kicks a very, very good goal. But it wasn't a legal goal. But, you know, those 2 goals, let's say the other one was out on the full, you know, imagine losing a game in a grand final because of something like that. Umpires just have to be held accountable more. Yes, they're going to miss some things. They're human. Everyone makes mistakes. I get it. But that was pretty blatant, and I wouldn't be surprised if the AFL comes out and says something and they say that they got it wrong. But look, all in all, it was just really good to see that spark, that genuine Collingwood DNA coming back in and coming at the right time. We've got 2 really intense games coming up. We've got Brisbane at Marvel and Essendon at the G, both on Friday nights. So 1 more win and we secure top spot. But it's not going to come easy. But if we can keep building on what we saw tonight, it's going to be, you know, leading into finals, it's going to be very exciting. The lid is sealed. The lid's nice and back in factory sealed. But it was just it's just what we were crying out for as supporters, and we got to witness that against the Cats. But look, anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. How did you enjoy the game? What did you think? But in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next time, double shackers. I'll see you later.